Good evening and welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News, where we discuss the important events that would have taken place in Guyana over the past week or so. And as is the norm, we have a packed agenda of issues to discuss. I want to welcome all of you who are joining us on television in Guyana, in Region 6, in Region 5. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. To those of you who are joining us on Freedom Radio from Robb Street, Georgetown, welcome to another program of Issues in the News. And last but not least, to the thousands of you who are joining us on Facebook Live across the length and breadth of Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, Europe, Asia, Australia, and beyond. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. Permit me to apologize for missing last week's program, but that was due to a very important engagement that required my undivided attention, and that is the massive and absolutely successful dinner fundraising event which was held in the compound of the convention center, the Arthur Chung Conference Center, last Friday, the 27th of June. That was a mega event, a massive success, and it was organized by the Region 4B, the East Coast of Demerara, Region 4B of the People's Progressive Party regional system. And that region is Region 4B, and that's the East Coast of Demerara. And we were able to put on that, in that compound, based upon not estimates by me, but other persons who were there, an estimated 12 to 15,000 persons. The General Secretary of the PPP described it as the largest gathering ever to have assembled at a dinner in the Caribbean. And I have no reason to doubt his description. I saw a post from a Trinidadian social media commentator who also gave a similar estimate in terms of the number of persons who were in attendance. Quite apart from the huge assembly of persons who gathered there, all the other arrangements were commendable. Hardly were there any criticism regarding any aspect of the event. The organization was done well, the traffic arrangements were commendable, the seating arrangements were very orderly and spacious, the sound system was great, the stage was great, the cordiality of our ushers, the ushering system was commended, the garbage arrangement no one criticized it, and the food was complimented. By and large, it was an absolutely successful event, and such events require a lot of work, and that is what kept me away from the program last Tuesday. And while I regretted staying away from the program, in the end, I believe the right decision was made, because if I came on the program and that affected that event in some form or fashion, I would not have been very pleased. So I'm happy that all is well that ends well. That having been said, quite a number of important events have taken place since we last spoke. In fact, I can hardly deal with the number of issues that I have earmarked here to deal with. of some importance, but I forgot to invite you to share this program. Share the program to your friends. Share the programs to your followers so that all your friends and all your followers can join us in tonight's discussion. Please let me have your comments. Let me have questions from you as well, because we want this program to be interactive and engaging. The last time we met, I spoke about an exodus taking place in the political or on the political or in the political landscape. And I was largely referring to the PNC, APNU. Well, that exodus continues. Since we spoke, Amanda Desir has left. Mr. Figuera has left. And other persons have left. But it would appear as though the exodus has become contagious. And other parties are now similarly affected. I see from the Alliance for Change, there has been a massive movement out of the party. So we have 3 of their parliamentarians, Ureta Finance, Leonarine Ramsaroop, and Shara Duncan. They left the AFC unceremoniously, not informing the leadership. At least that is what we are told publicly. And they have moved over to the Alliance for Change, to the APNU, PNC. So I don't know who is left in the AFC. And then a few days after, I see 2 young members, Mr. Onyx Duncan and Delon Mohammed, 2 youth leaders, I'm told. They also resign from the AFC. So the AFC is being badly hit by these resignations, and one is left to wonder whether it's now a party of the uses Patterson, Ramjatan, and Trotman. I don't know, they may be Beverly Alert. So it looks as though it's a party of leaders that is left. It's only the few leaders in the party that are left now, because everybody seems to have gone. And these 2 youth leaders, interestingly, they gave reasons for their leaving. In fact, all of them gave reasons for their leaving. The earlier trio, Finance, Duncan, and the Leonarine, they cited leadership issues, I think, as the basis for their departure. I believe they said that Nigel Hughes is the least electable of all the presidential candidates. That's a serious slash to put on the leader of any party. And then you have the 2 younger persons. They left and they cited racism, sexism, homophobia, xenophobia, and some other phobias as the reason for their departure. So there are some serious happenings taking place in the Alliance for Change. Racism, sexism, homophobia, and xenophobia. These were expressly mentioned. And I believe some other serious, equally serious allegations were leveled against the leadership that precipitated the resignation of these two young gentlemen. And an interesting thing also occurred. You have the three senior ones that left, David Narayan, Finance, and Duncan, threatening to sue AFC if because of their expulsion. Because apparently they were expelled after they left. And I heard them saying in the public domain that they will sue. So it appears as though they have persuaded themselves that they should remain in the AFC. I don't know how, while they join the PNC. So while this may sound funny or may appear very comical, this is seriously the mindset and the mentality of these people. And these are people who are putting themselves up as leaders. One of them is going to be a prime ministerial candidate. But I am sure you have difficulty as a rational thinking person. You have difficulty in reconciling how a person can leave one political party, goes over to another political party, but wants to remain in that political party, so much so that if that political party expels them, they are prepared to sue that political party. To you and to the ordinary person, that may be irrational. But to these people, it is rational. It is rational to these people. And these are the people that are telling you that you should vote for them. That type of mentality which they have, they will use to advance your life and to govern the society and to provide for your children and protect your children's future. And I'm not making this up. You have seen what they have said. On another dimension, I can point out to you that perhaps in their unique and peculiar style of thinking, because they all embrace coalition politics, and perhaps they are collating, and maybe that is why they want to remain in the AFC while they move across to the PNC or to APNU. Maybe it's a coalition in their minds between the AFC and APNU all over again. The only difference now is that in this coalition, they have excluded Nigel Hughes, Kemran Ramjatan, Raphael Trotman, David Patterson, and Beverly Alert, the other members of the AFC. So there's a coalition without them. Maybe that's one school of thought being pursued by these persons who have done what they have done. But what is clear is that the AFC is in complete shambles and chaos. That much is clear. And I don't know whether they would be even contesting the elections. I am not clear whether they can even field a list of candidates to satisfy the legal requirements set out in ROPA to qualify to contest the elections. We will see very shortly, as time is near for submissions of the various lists that are required to be submitted to contest the elections. Still on the question of movements taking place in political parties, I see Forward Guyana, that's a unit now formed by Amanda Desir, has joined force with the People's Movement and VPAC. VPAC and the People's Movement, I don't know whether they are one and the same, and the entire name is the People's Movement and VPAC. I'm not sure. But this is a grand coalition of forces. Forward Guyana, the People's Movement and VPAC have joined forces. I don't know if two of them coming together or they are three separate entities. But in my respectful view, 3 zeros equals 0. And then you have ANUG coming together with WIN. And the leader of ANUG, Dr. France, I can't remember his first name. France is saying that it is not a coalition. Both sides I've seen saying that it's not a coalition, it's a collaboration. These guys are extremely technical with the use of their terminologies. So we have to be very careful. These are sophisticated politicians. So they are not coalescing or collating, they are collaborating. But in their collaboration, ANUG disappears and WIN is the only entity. So in this collaboration, there is a consumption because one consumes the other in this collaboration. I am not that bright. I am just trying to understand the very technical amalgamation and mergers that are taking place among these political forces in the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. And then when that collaboration was announced, we had two swift resignations from Senior Counsel Ralph Ramkaran and Senior Counsel Timothy Jonas. Within minutes of the announcement of this collaboration, we saw in the social media, or on social media, these two learned gentlemen submitting their resignations. The reasons are obvious. I don't think that I have to tell anyone why they have submitted their resignations. They didn't say why, but one can make an educated assumption why. And you and I have already made that assumption. Mr. France, however, Dr. France, Mark France, I'm told by my operator, Dr. Mark France, however, sees the equation from the opposite perspective. Whatever Ralph Ramkaran and Timothy Jonas have seen, Dr. Mark France sees obviously the opposite. And while they are moving in one direction, he has moved completely to the other direction, and he seems very comfortable from utterances that I've seen him make on social media. But trust me when I say that in the very near future, we will see how these associations unfold and what the future holds for these persons who are moving in this direction. I will not say more. I think that I have summed up the seismic movements that have taken place in Guyana's political landscape as we move into election mode. There is one party, however, that is standing as strong and stronger than ever, like the Rock of Gibraltar, and that is the People's Progressive Party / Civic. We are not changing names. We are not. All we are doing is welcoming everyone on board. The president commenced his term in office with the coinage of a phrase, One Guyana. It embraces a long-standing philosophical principle and objective of the People's Progressive Party, enshrined in the constitution of our party by our founding father, Dr. Chenny Jagan. And that is to unite Guyana, to welcome everyone in the camp of the PPP and to make them part of our family, one Guyana family. And we are pursuing that objective and we are succeeding. And as we are succeeding, we see the political opposition among us disintegrating. And what is ironic is that all of them have one objective. All of them have one objective. They are singular in their objective. And that objective is to remove the People's Progressive Party from office. That is their singular objective. I've looked at the list of parties likely to contest elections, and they number 22. And I have no doubt that all 22 of them have one objective, to remove the People's Progressive Party. But that will not happen. We are not complacent. We believe that we deserve a second term, and we have a track record of achievements. We have a president who is visionary, and we have delivered on our promises, and we are the only political force with integrity. We are the only political party that can be trusted with the future of this country. And we have a track record of accomplishments to back that up. It's not a statement in abstract, and it is not an idealistic statement. It is a statement that is supported by a long track record of achievements, both in and out of government. So I think I've dealt with most of the movement that's taking place between and among political parties. An interesting revelation came from the vice chairman of Region Number 4 and a former PNC member who has since resigned and has found a welcoming place in the People's Progressive Party. Samuel Sandy. He was a vice chairman of Region 4. Very hard-working activist of the PNC on the east coast of Demerara. Worked alongside him for some time. And he made a revelation in an interview which I want to share with you. He said in 2020, APNU AFC lost the election. I was the operations manager for the East Coast campaign. I was responsible for collecting all SOPs. And I did take it upon myself to record the scores of every SOP received. Mr. President Granger's son-in-law, a leader of the Alliance for Change and a minister of the government, Gaskin, made similar pronouncements during that 5 months period when they were trying to steal the elections. Now Sandy has come forward and he's speaking specifically of the east coast of Demerara. And one of their favorite narratives which they have fabricated and they like to disseminate is about some 40 boxes were tampered with on the east coast of Demerara. And I have given the explanation maybe 100 times on this program. This is the very east coast of Demerara. Sandy is saying that they lost. He took all the numbers. He recorded all the numbers and the SOPs on the east coast of Demerara. And they lost. Remember, they were saying that documents were missing. And I keep saying to them, when you count ballots, election is about ballots, how many people vote for you. The people vote by ballot. The only thing that is counted is the ballots in the box. So if a statutory form is missing, some form, how would that affect the number of ballots in the box? But that is what they want to hold on to. And they believe that people are as foolish as them. If a statutory form is missing, does that change the fact that you have 50 votes in the box for the PPP and you have 10 votes in the box for the PNC? Because of some statutory form missing, those numbers are going to change. The PNC will get more votes because a statutory document is missing. Because that's all is counted at the close of poll is the ballots, not statutory instruments. And why I am repeating this is because recently I heard Ganesh Mahipal them repeat the same argument again. And every time they repeat it, I feel happy because intelligent Guyanese are listening to them. And every time they do that, they dent their credibility. Not that they have much credibility in the first place. But it just reminds people how dishonest, how barefaced, how vulgar, and how hypocritical these people are. It just shows you that they lost fairly and squarely. But they still would not accept it. And how long they don't accept it, the Guyanese people must never vote for them. I see them quoting observer reports all the time. But you know, the observer reports, and they're quoting the recommendations made by observer reports. Yes, every observer report contains recommendations. I have no doubt. No problem with that. But they're not dealing with the main ingredient in the observer report is that the elections were free, fair, and transparent. And the attempts by the APNU AFC to rig the elections were condemned. That is the main theme of each observer's report. There is no observer in the 2020 elections that have not said that the elections were free, fair, and credible, that the PPP has won those elections, and the attempts by the APNU AFC to change the results of the elections were unlawful and were fraudulent. Every observer report says that. But listen when Nigel Hughes, when Aubrey Norton, or any one of them speak about the observer reports, they never say that part. They go to the recommendations. The recommendations are like an addendum. The observation report is a report of the observation of the conduct of the elections. That is what the people came to observe. The conduct of the elections. And that is what their report is on. Everything else are not, they are subsidiary to that main theme, but they never want to quote the main theme. I just thought that I would reflect on that a little. Now there is a issue that is making the news, which I saw today, and it concerns a tweet by a U.S. congressman. And yesterday there was another tweet. Today was a tweet from a U.S. congresswoman. And yesterday was a tweet from a U.S. congressman. So we have had experiences here in Guyana of U.S. politicians of the highest rank, beginning from the president right down, have used this social media, Twitter, to disseminate information. And President Trump, I believe, may have made it popular, as I think he started it. And many other important government functionaries of the United States have expressed positions via this social media platform. It is now X, that's what it's called now, but it used to be called Twitter. And we know that these tweets, as they are abbreviated and described as, they contain important policy positions of the United States. Our experiences have proven that. President Trump has tweeted about the most important policies of his government. Many congresspersons have tweeted about important policy positions of their respective agencies. During the elections, the 5 months period, after the 2020 elections, while attempts were made by the then government, APNU AFC, to rig those elections, along with certain agents in GCOM, regularly important American government functionaries, including several congressmen and possibly congresswomen, tweeted America's position, condemning their attempts, calling upon the President Granger and the government to accept the results, calling upon them to accept the recount results. Sanctions were threatened against that government via tweets from no other than the then Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. You remember all of that. Then recently, in relation to the Venezuelan threats, or the Venezuelan threat to Guyana's territorial integrity, several important American functionaries have made very important policy position via this social media platform. I say that to you to say that whether an American congressman or woman tweets, make a tweet, they don't parrot a position. They're not rubber stamp. They express a policy position. They make important disclosures by virtue via this media platform. So when the two persons, the two US Congress members tweeted yesterday and today, and we know what they said. They are tweeting their positions, and they are members of Congress. The point I want to make is that you can't hand an American congressman a piece of paper and say, tweet this, and he will tweet it. It must be something that is part of their policy, that they are aware of, that they have investigated, and that is their position, because the platform of this social media platform has now become an acceptable form of them disseminating important policy, important positions that they adopt on important matters. There is a big controversy now in the media where I see the government is being accused as a result of these tweets. Rather than the media or certain sections of the media, the usual suspects, rather than them concentrating or reporting on what the tweet says or what the tweets say, their focus is not on the content of the tweet. Their focus seems to be on some lobbying company that they are accusing of being paid by the government of Guyana to prepare these tweets. Are they suggesting that the US Congress and the US congressmen and women are a bunch of rubber stamps? That these people have no integrity? That they have no self-respect? That they will just prostitute their position as Congress, as members of Congress, and simply publish something that somebody hands them in their hand and said, tweet this to Guyana, and look, there's an envelope of money for you here. Is that how they perceive the US Congress to be operating? Is that the respect and the integrity that they believe congressmen and women are possessed of? or their lack of integrity. I find this extremely shocking. Extremely shocking. I would think that these people, the congressmen and women, whoever they are, in the same way that they have treated before, they have informed the positions. They tweet. You think that Pompeo would have threatened visa sanctions against a government and government members if he was not satisfied based upon the intelligence and based upon his own information that he would have received from credible sources that he trusts, that they were attempting to rig elections? You don't think that is, he would have had that kind of work done before he takes to the social media, taking into account that what he says or what they say when they put out these tweets, it becomes the subject of news across the globe. Sometimes I wonder about the I wonder about our own self-respect. When people take these positions, they don't think it through. They don't think it through. These people are congressmen and women. These people they're high. Anyhow, I think I made the point. I can't continue saying the same thing over and over. My attention was drawn to an editorial in the Stabrook News of Monday, June the 30th, that's yesterday. And the editorial bore the caption, "Where is the Sex Offenders Registry?" And the editorial is a highly critical commentary of certain amendments which the government has worked on in respect of the Sexual Offences Act. Now the act, those amendments are now the subject of a bill, the Sexual Offences Amendment Bill, which unfortunately we didn't get an opportunity to conclude work on in order to take it to the National Assembly. So it will have to go in the next Parliament. And the Sex Offenders Registry is part of those amendments or part of that bill. But what I want to speak about is the criticism of the Stabrook News that the bill did not take into Stabrook News has some concerns which they have chronicled in their editorial in relation to the bill. And that's absolutely fine. I respect anybody's right to have a different view. And I share with Stabrook News the view that this is an important piece of legislation. And that is why, as our government did in relation to the Principal Act, this bill was the subject of intense consultations. Several incarnations of this bill was done, each benefiting from different rungs of consultations. The bill was worked on by a consultant, and 3 ministries were involved in the process of the consultation and the preparation of the bill. The Attorney General Chambers and Ministry of Legal Affairs, the Ministry of Human Services, and the Ministry of Governance and Parliamentary Affairs. 3 ministries. After I read the editorial, I asked the consultant, who was tasked with the responsibility of drafting the amendments and holding the consultations, and to use the consultations as the basis to draft the bill. I asked her to pen a few paragraphs for me in respect of the consultations that were done, and she has done so. And the consultant has outlined that in the initial phase of consultation, in the initial stage, she consulted the technical sectors. Why? Because these amendments were supposed to be an update of the Sexual Offences Act, which was passed in 2010. So we were updating it now, some 15 years later. And we thought that a useful place to start is to go to the technical people and find out what technical deficiencies or deficiencies that are contained in the Principal Act and work from there. Let them tell you what those technical difficulties were or are, which they confronted in the practice of the law. So that technical team that was consulted included the Director of Public Prosecutions and the staff of the Public Prosecution, the DPP office, members of the criminal bar, and the magistrates. So here the practitioners of the law were consulted first, and they gave their input of what the technical deficiencies were. So that was the first round of consultation. Following this round, a draft bill was produced from these consultations, and that was sent back to the stakeholders, the same technical stakeholders, and that was made public, and the public was invited to make submissions, to make recommendations, to make criticisms of those amendments. So this was a national consultation where we invited everyone. We put it on social media, it was on several websites, and hard copies were sent out. On Wednesday, July the 3rd, 2024, a national stakeholders forum on the amendments was held at Cara Lodge in the Woodbine Room of Cara Lodge Hotel. So we had a national consultation. The main participants included representatives from the administrative regions, non-governmental organizations, medical and health professionals, prison and police officers, members of the Guyana Bar Associations, and relevant commissions such as the Women, Gender, Equality Commission, etc. The recommendations coming out of this national stakeholder consultation process were reviewed and put into a revised bill. this national consultation was done right here in Georgetown, and the inputs received were incorporated into a revised bill. Then that revised bill was sent out back to both the technical persons, meaning the DPP, the magistrates, etc., and we had another sensitization program, inviting all the stakeholders again on November the 28th, Thursday, November the 28th, Friday, November the 29th, 2024, at the Guyana Police Force Office Training Center, Ivleary. Again, the participants included police officers, prison officers, probation officers, state councils, police prosecutors, and other members of the legal profession. And then we got another revised bill was prepared based upon this last intervention. And that is the one which we have now as a final draft, which we didn't get an opportunity to take to the National Assembly. The point, I go through all of this to illustrate to you the opportunities that Stabrook News and whoever interest they represent would have had to come to the consultations and bring their positions forward. That is the whole reason for the consultations. They never came forward. But they write an entire editorial knowing full well that the bill is still not completed. I just draw that to your attention to illustrate to you how no matter what this government do, what this government does, you will always have these criticisms coming. If we didn't hold any consultations at all, they would have written an editorial of the same type. I just gave you a series of consultations, none of which they attended, but they editorialize in a very critical way that the bill excludes important issues. Fortunately, the bill is not yet complete, and I will ensure, anyhow, they will get an opportunity to make another input. Quickly before I go, I see that I'm approaching program time already. As you may know, a number of persons were appointed justices of the peace and commissioners of oath to affidavit. Now, appointments were not made for a long time, so a reasonably large number of persons were appointed. It was explained to each of these persons that this appointment is intended for them to use this newly acquired qualifications for the public good, to use it to assist persons in their communities who may require that type of service. That was made clear to them. It was specifically made clear that these appointments were not intended to make them commercial operators. That is to say, to offer these services at exorbitant prices. For those reasons, each appointment was confined to the region in which the person is residing, and they are not to operate outside of those regions. It was also pointed out that training sessions will be held, and a copy of the legislation was made available, the relevant legislation, to the new appointees, or at least they were pointed in the direction of where they can access the new legislation. We have received multiple complaints that persons whom were recently appointed are abusing these appointments, that they are doing things that this appointment doesn't qualify them to do, that they are charging exorbitant prices and fees and monies for rendering the service that they are rendering, that they have erected signboards at their homes, and some of them have open offices, and they list the type of services that they are now offering. I am asking kindly to all those persons who were appointed to desist from doing the things that I have just outlined. You are not attorneys at law, and the appointment that you have received as a justice of peace or commissioner of oath to affidavit, neither of those appointments nor the combination of the two qualify you to perform any legal service or services. Just before this program started, I see a JP putting a stamp on a landlord sending a tenant a notice. That is not a function of a JP. And all sorts of, when you pretend to be a lawyer, you're committing a number of offenses. In particular, when you are charging persons for legal services which you are not qualified to offer. I am hoping that there is a reconsideration by the persons to whom I'm speaking, and common sense prevails, and we don't have to go travel another road. Because these appointments, as you know, can be revoked. In the same way that they were made, they are revocable. And based upon the information that we are receiving, many offenses are being committed by these persons. Obtaining money by false pretenses, touting, obtaining money by fraud, a whole set of criminal offenses. And I'm hoping that we don't have to resort to those things. I am appealing here. I'm not threatening. I am appealing to all of you. Remember the reason why you were appointed. You were appointed to assist members of your community who may need that type of services. In particular, the vulnerable members of your society, of your communities. Not for you to open some commercial center and start a business. That's not the purpose of the appointment. So I hope that good sense will prevail. My operator is signaling to me that we have long passed the program time. I want to thank you very much for being with me over the past hour. I think that we have covered a lot of ground, and well, I had to because I missed last week's program, and I may be missing some more programs. as the election campaign intensifies. Remember, we got to go out there and work. You can't allow, you see what is happening in the political landscape, you see the confusion, you see the chaos, you see who are the alternatives to the People's Progressive Party. There is no real alternative. None. None. So I hope that you understand the importance of making proper decisions at the appropriate time. Thank you very much. Please enjoy the rest of the evening, enjoy the rest of the week, and may God bless you and continue to protect you. Thank you and goodbye.